PM, we'll call the regular meeting of the Helotes Economic Development Commission for March 20th to order. And I take it we have no citizens to be heard.
No, Mr. President.
Consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of the last meeting, approval of the EDC FYE 2019 revenues and expense balance sheet, presentation by, well, and that's items for individual consideration. Those are the only two items. If I can have a motion to approve those, if no one has any questions.
I motion.
Second.
Moved by Patrick, seconded by Alan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is it appropriate if I vote yes for that? Just by viewing the video since I wasn't here?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Okay, aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item 4 is a presentation by Armstrong Vaughn and Associates and discussion and action on the annual financial report. Kim?
Good evening, board members, and thank you for your time this evening. As always, our firm is happy to get to work with the city and the corporation in order to provide the annual audit services. We did give another unmodified opinion this year. Always happy to report that, and want to say thank you to staff as well as to you all and everything that you do as part of our audit process. If you'll turn, I know you just got your bound reports passed out. This is also, of course, in the electronic version. But if you'll turn over to page 3, this is kind of a short and sweet picture here, so I just thought I'd kind of refer to it. You'll notice here at the bottom of the page, again, that was page 3, there's a table 1. And the nice thing about this, of course, is it does give a comparison. So I thought it would kind of summarize nicely here. So at the end of 2018, you can see that the corporation's total assets went just over $1.1 million. Obviously, the majority of that is in liquid cash and investments. You can see that last year you did have a CD, but that actually matured out, and so it's now just in a money market account. Still earning pretty good interest these days, so that's always a nice place to be. You can see there that you had similar high accounts receivable. That's simply just for timing purposes. Of course, obviously the main source of revenue for the corporation is sales tax. And the way that the sales tax works, it comes in 2 months in arrears. So that sales tax, receivable represents the sales tax collected in October and November, which is actually attributed to the August and September months. After your total liabilities, which really just represent those certain payments back according to the 380 agreement, and certainly just the corporation's portion of those payments for sales tax abatements that need to be paid back. After those total liabilities, you can see that you had a net position of $985,000. Very, very healthy position for the corporation to be in currently. Any questions on that? Well, if you'll then now flip over to page 17. This is a little bit more detailed than the quick summary we just saw, but this also provides a comparison to 2017's revenues and expenditures, but now it's also comparing it to budget, both the original and the final budget. So if you look there in the middle column, the bolded column there, you can see that your total revenues fell short just a little bit of your final budgeted revenues by $20,000. And the majority of that, of course, is just that the sales tax, especially after those payments back to the developers for the 380 agreements that have been made, certainly very difficult to anticipate. But even though your revenues did fall short of the annual budget, you can see below that your total expenditures had a very large positive favorable variance, so they were actually less than your final budgeted expenditures by $163,000. You can also see that your expenditures are very comparable to your 2017 expenditures, and even after the transfers to the primary government, of course in your case that would be the city, of close to $491,000, you still had a positive change in your fund balance of $142,000. And of course that large transfer to the city is by and large is for the pledged revenue for the debt service, and that number continues to come down each year. So this number for 2018 was $490,000, and if you actually flip back just about 2 pages over to page 15, you'll see that future schedule of the future transfers, and you can see how that number is going to drop in future years. For instance, in 2019, it'll only be 319,000. Big difference from 490. Any other question, or any questions I can answer for you this evening? Well, the only other thing I wanted to leave you with is, of course, we're required to gain an understanding of the internal controls of the city, which certainly is part of your internal controls as the corporation. And we're happy to report that we didn't have any recommendations for improvement. There's very, very good internal controls held at the staff level and within management, so we're very happy to report that. So that's pretty much all I had to say.
Kim,
Yes, sir. Oh.
take this, you can update your records on the board members.
Yes, sir. Actually, the reason for the names it's supposed to be as of September 30. So I do know that y'all had some changes to the members of the board and positions, but that's why it has that. Any other questions?
Have any, thank you. Okay, item 6 is a presentation.
Chair, y'all will need to adopt or approve the report as presented.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the FYE 2018 annual financial report?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Matthew, seconded by Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. The next item was a presentation by TxDOT on their Gateway Management Program and City Pride signage program, and they were a no-show, so,
Yeah, I would like to call your attention to a few things in the packet, though.
okay. Could we have a motion, well, just a presentation, let's have a motion to discuss the Gateway signage.
Motion to discuss the gateway signage.
A second.
Motion moved and seconded.
Thank you. Included within your packet, again, were the Gateway Monument Program guidelines that TxDOT provided to us, along with a draft agreement that they have for an official gateway monument sign or signs. What I wanted to call your attention to, because I think everybody knows what the Gateway Monument relatively consists of, is the City Pride sign guidelines. The City Pride sign are much like you see along the highways when you enter into other communities. The last page of this item looks like this. It says, "Welcome to any town." Clearly, this type of signage would be much cheaper than the Gateway Monument signage that we had previously or are currently looking at. And so I wanted to get the board's feedback on whether this type of signage would be acceptable, or would y'all prefer to have the true gateway signage along states' rights-of-way? Because this can be done at a relatively nominal cost versus the gateway. And it accomplishes, in my mind, the same thing by saying, hey, you're in Helotes. Of course, it's not as fancy as a rock gateway monument sign would be. So I just wanted to get y'all's impressions on that before we moved forward to the next item.
Do we have, pardon me, do we have a rough idea of what this welcome to any town signage would cost?
I don't know exactly what it would cost. I can tell you it would be significantly less than the monument. I would assume that these signs probably are a couple $100 a piece, plus labor to install them, and then we would have to pay TxDOT to do that. They're not going to allow us to install them. So, rough estimate, you know, just based on the signage that we install at the city level, they're certainly $1,000 or less a piece. Versus a gateway monument sign, which is probably going to be above 15,000, probably closer to 20, 25,000, which is what we installed in the Old Town area.
And we still don't have a location for a monument-type sign.
No, that was what I was hoping we could address tonight with TxDOT, the lady who oversees this project, but they're not here, so.
So could we go with for now, temporarily, with the alternative, the Anytown sign? probably speak close to the mic. Can we go with the temporary sign for now and then wait for TxDOT to show up so that we can discuss that further, and then perhaps down the road, replace the Anytown temporary sign with the monument?
Yes, I believe that the
'Cause that
city
gives us more
pride
time.
signs are available to us, I'm not gonna say immediately, but within a short time frame.
It would be a near-term solution until we can decide what we do with the monument sign, where it would be located and so forth, to get TxDOT's approval.
That is correct, and if y'all want to do that as sort of a stopgap or for a short-term solution, then I would get with TxDOT, we would fill out the appropriate agreement paperwork, and I would send that to council for their review and approval, because TxDOT's gonna want a resolution from the city council before they would proceed with anything.
'Cause if the Anytown sign is minimal, where it's not a large expenditure, that may be a decent solution until we rectify where we could place this and do it the right way, as opposed to,
And they'll allow us to put this in the right of way.
Yes, sir.
That sounds like a good alternative
like
to
it.
me.
Yes, it does.
My problem with it right now is we can get a good location on the south end of 16 for Welcome to Helotes that represents Helotes when you come into it. If you come in at the north city limits now, you're going through about 4 miles of nothing before you get to anything in the city.
You're talking
Nothing's-
about because of the road extending that much
Yeah,
further out?
because the road extends so far past what the actual city limits are. And I assume with this, if we wanted to, we might be able to get the gateway signs on 1560 too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because we were talking about whether the signage on 1560 and Hausman would be cost prohibitive. And so this, I just thought that would allow us to put them at all of our entrances into the city. And even in the future, if we decided to just do one monument or 2 monuments on Bandera Road, we could still leave those other ones up.
Right, and that gives us time to get through all the discussions with TxDOT if they would even consider a monument sign in the right-of-way, and do some more research on private property to do it at that point. And I really wouldn't feel comfortable putting a big monument sign out at the north city limits right now on 16, but I don't think we want to spend the money to put it in closer to where the actual city limits are now, and then spend that money again later, but it may be 10 years before we get to the point out there that we need a monument sign coming from that direction. The development's very slow past Helotes, commercial development. There's not enough traffic count to
Yeah, there's not
justify
enough
the
traffic at that
commercial growth.
So what I'm hearing is to proceed with whatever agreement is necessary for these.
I don't think we can actually vote on it because we don't have an action item on it, but
Yeah,
I
but you can give
recommend-
direction to me.
we can give, yeah, we can just give Rick direction. And if we've got a consensus on going that way right now and getting something up, and then I think the city's going to have to apply for it rather than us anyway. I
Yes, sir.
recommended that our recommendation to the city council would be to go with that with the president while we examine other alternatives we could do to put up monument signs.
Okay, well then we'll proceed with getting whatever documents we need to get together, and then we'll send it to council for their review.
So if I understand correctly, we're talking about 3 signs now, one on the south side on 16, one on the north side of 16, and one on 1560.
Well, one on 1560 both directions.
Yeah, so we'd be,
Yes, okay, coming off the
Down
Houseman.
about Shanefield,
Sure.
yeah, so we'd be talking about a total of 4
60.
signs.
4 signs, okay.
4 signs, yeah. So we're probably looking at less than $2,000 for all 4 of them, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, those signs are not that expensive. So they're more expensive than you think they are, but they're not that expensive.
Exorbitant.
Yeah. Okay, we will do that.
Okay, item 7 is to adjourn into a work session. And I guess, do we have to have a motion to adjourn into a work session?
I motion.
You motioned,
I motion.
Second?
seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you, Kim.
Thank you.
Basically, what I see on this, is there's no significant changes in the work plan. what Rick took it and wordsmithed it and moved some of the items around a little bit from what we had and added three or four follow-up points through it. If you want to, Rick, you can go through and cover what you added to it.
Yeah, I compared what the board had previously looked at versus, and the reason I did this is frankly, I hadn't contributed anything to the process over the last two revisions. So I just wanted to thoroughly review it and then provide y'all with my comments. But on page number 2, basically what I did is rearrange goal number 3, 4, and 5, because we talked about external marketing and then internal marketing. I thought it flowed better, and then to talk about a visitor center. So that wasn't a substantive change. On the executive summary, there weren't any I think I had 2 grammatical changes on that, but nothing substantive. Goal number 1, to develop industry targets. Under the projects section, I added in more incentive opportunities that we can look at. There were some in there before, if I recall, but I added in permit license fee reductions, tax increment reinvestment zones, basically all the stuff that we could use to incentivize development, just so that it was documented in this plan. Under priority 3, which is to encourage the development of mixed-use entertainment and hotel concepts, I wanted to clarify that mixed use meant restaurants and retailers, because I know that question is going to come up. But I added, I basically expanded the language under the project section to match other parts of the strategic plan. But again, nothing was really substantive. It was just expanding on the language that was already there. Goal number 2, gateway signage. When I compared it, there were minor changes, but nothing substantive there. I added a priority 2, which was to bid and construct the gateway signage, but it wasn't. It was already implied under priority 1.
And we'll probably address, at this point, we'll address project cost estimate in an informal basis rather than hiring an architect or an engineer to design signs and charge us for the whole design process.
Say that again?
Rather than, it says, develop a cost estimate and coordinate with city on funding options and engage a sign contractor to design and install a sign. We will probably do that on a more informal basis, come up with some designs if we can through people we have association with rather than contracting with an engineer or an architect to design the signs and paying a design fee prior to even, we don't know what it's going to be until we come up with where we could actually put it.
Yeah.
And what the total cost would be.
Yeah, the reason that I added in engage a landscape architect, or professional engineer is because that language comes directly from the TxDOT manual that says TxDOT won't approve signage unless it has been basically signed and sealed by one of those 3
It's got
entities.
to have a seal on it.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, we can certainly come up with designs ourselves or work with, and then have them,
Then when we get to the point
Formalize it.
we're going to go forward with it, we'll do that part of the
yeah,
process.
yeah. Okay, goal number 3 and goal number 4 of the modified plan refers to external and internal marketing and communication plans. I clarified under goal number 3 that we were specifically referring to the development and real estate community in the heading. And the reason I did that is if you look at goal number 4, internal marketing and communication plan, I added in area business owners. I think that these have always been very confusing goals because we don't really, at the onset, we were talking about educating the public about what this organization was doing in the way of growth. I think that's more of a city responsibility than an EDC responsibility. I mean, really an EDC is focused on bringing in businesses and business retention. And so, in my opinion, that's why I structured it this way to where when we're talking about external marketing, we would be talking about marketing to development and real estate guys. And when we're talking about internal marketing, we're talking about in-house, i.e. businesses that are already here and focusing on business retention and expansion. Y'all may not like that, but, and y'all can certainly advise me of that, but they were very sort of confusing sections, in my opinion, to begin with.
I think it was good to expand the prior, or goal 3, to ensure that we have the pertinent information. We're working on that to make sure the information is more easily accessible. And like, I walked in the office this week, and Glenn had a group of developers in there looking at properties. So having the same information the city does is what we need to do for sure. It's what we're doing anyway, because a lot of times we have the initial contact at the EDC office before they come to the city.
Under the priority 1 and priority 2, well, priority 1 under projects, I added in the third bullet point, which was to attend trade and similar events and distribute that information to the development and real estate community. I added it in there because we're already doing that, but we will continue to do that. It's my hope that we will continue to do that. Under priority 2, which is to look at the commercial growth strategy within the corporate limits in the ETJ, I added in promoting development within the Old Town District. That was originally an EDC project, and so I would think that the EDC would still want to promote that development. But also the last 2 I added, which was to highlight the benefits of being located within the corporate city limits and encourage annexation if located in the ETJ. That seemed to fit with the discussions that we would have with the development and real estate community.
Right, of course, we're gonna continue to promote Old Town, but there's very little property available in Old Town for new people to come in.
Yeah. No, I understand. Well, unless there's redevelopment, but.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that. Basically, I wanted to make sure that all the projects that the EDC were responsible for thus far were included in this, in the promotion of business development in those areas. Like the State Highway 16, y'all paid for all of the engineering on that. It seems reasonable that y'all would want to make that a priority in promoting business development in that area. That's the whole reason we put in the water and sewer.
The only thing I question is this doesn't address like development down here in the commercial corridor. So like bidder property or several undeveloped properties that are probably gonna go first. It just seemed like it focused on the north end of Helotes and kind of ignored the main commercial corridor.
And if y'all agree, I can certainly add in the focusing on the commercial corridor. I left it out because it sort of develops naturally by itself because it's closer to 1604 and
that's-
there's more traffic. But I mean, I can add that in there.
Put
too.
it back in there, but well, basically, you spend more time working with potential developers on that property than anything else. They're the ones that are coming in.
So-
Especially right now.
Yeah.
So basically, we're talking about adding in the commercial corridor between Circle A and Loop 1604.
Between South City limits and Circle A or whatever. Or just the entire, just put in the Highway 16 commercial corridor and it'll cover all of it.
Okay.
Sometimes we also get a little pushback from those businesses that we tend to focus our efforts in other parts of Helotes, and they want to make sure that they're still taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay. Goal number 4. Goal number 4 was amended all over the place. So really, if you included within the packet was the red lines. So I'll go over this more in depth. But again, I made the change to focus on internal being more of a business retention and expansion effort for existing businesses that are located in the city of Helotes. Under the projects, I put, again, that we're trying to ensure that they have all the information they need on the city and EDC websites and through other electronic mediums. We currently and will continue to use social media, the Helotes Magazine, our partnerships with the chamber and with the city and other mediums to promote business retention and expansion opportunities, economic development opportunities, and related items of interest within the current business community. And we currently have partnerships with the bulleted groups. We work with the UTSA Small Business Development Center. Of course, we work with the chamber. We have, I don't think we've actually worked with Alamo Workforce Solutions that much. There's not really a workforce issue out here like there would be in other parts of San Antonio. But We certainly have contacts there. We work with ACOG, the National Association of the Self-Employed, and so on and so forth. And then priority 2, I left pretty much as is, which is to promote and encourage day tripping. I left that into the area business or the business retention and expansion section because the whole reason we promote day tripping to Helotes is to spend money in existing businesses that are already here. So I thought it fit. Goal number 5 used to be a different goal, but now it's visitor center under my plan, or under my recommended changes to the plan. I added in, the visitor center thing doesn't bother me. I like the idea of it. I just see it being a long time before this actually comes together. And so I thought we needed to expand who we would potentially involve in this project. Obviously, the EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Historical Society were the first 3 that talked about this, but I did add in other interested organizations that provide governmental educational and/or business-related assistance to the community, because there might be other organizations in the future that want to have office space or be a partner in this. I think it's probably important that they're not actual businesses, but rather they serve that government educational or chamber function or something like that. So I added in that.
This is also part of the research that I'm conducting, where I'm also not only looking at the cities that are comparable to us compared to a city that's right outside their limits like San Antonio, but also do they have visitor centers? And what do those visitor centers encompass? What's involved?
Yeah. Okay. The last thing was to create an MDD. The only change that I had here was it originally said secure HEDC and city council approval for MDD creation. I'm not quite sure what approval would be necessary from the EDC to create an MDD. I mean, really, it's sort of a city and city council function, and so I just put secure city council approval for MDD creation rather than having the EDC in there, because there would be no EDC approval required, so.
And we could assist in some way, maybe with getting the paperwork done to get the election held or do something like that, but that, anything we do would be a supplementary function to the city.
Yeah, I mean, we would be an advocate for it, and we
Yeah.
would help them do whatever they needed to do, but ultimately, they would have to call for the election, so. Those were the change. I did make some modifications. If you go through these goals, I'll just quickly go through that. On the time frame for these goals, goal number 1, which is to develop the industry targets, we do that every day, and so I kept that as a short-term goal from 2018 to 2019. I realize it's already 2019, but this is our FY 2019 plan, so it's 2018 and 2019. Gateway signage I put as a midterm goal from 2018 to 2021, so that's, 19, 20, 21. So I did 3 years there. I don't know what it was originally, but 3 years seemed reasonable to me. Goal 3, external marketing, I kept that as a short-term goal. Internal marketing, I kept it as a short-term goal. The visitor center, I expanded the time frame there. I thought a 10-year time frame seemed reasonable, and so I put from 2019 to 2029. I think earlier it was like a 5-year goal. I just don't see that happening in the next 5 years. I mean, a lot has happened in 5 years, but I just think that that's going to be a huge undertaking. That's going to take a longer period of time than that.
Well, it could go 2 ways. If we decide to build a visitor center, it's probably a 10-year goal. If we get agreement sometime in 3 to 5 years, if we're going to use lease space, we could have one active in 3 to 5 years if we go with lease space. We'd be looking at a monthly expenditure rather than a long-term bonded indebtedness of a couple of $1 million to build a building.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with leasing a space for a visitor center. And then the last thing, goal 6, the MDD, I think I expanded that a little bit so I put 2018 to 2023, which is 5 years, excuse me. Just because that's gonna be It's not going to be an easy process getting VIA to relinquish its sales tax in our ETJ. And so that may involve legislative work, it may involve legal work. So I think 5 years is a reasonable timeframe to think about an MDD.
Yeah, once that's done, it's probably gonna take you 18 months from the time you start to get to an election anyway.
Yeah,
It's a process you have to go through to get there.
yeah, and of course, that's assuming that people are going to vote for it, so.
Right.
So those, again, I don't think my recommended changes are significant. I just think that they tried to clarify some language and add in some of the partnerships and things that we had. So those are my recommendations.
Questions?
If we, I do have a question. If we should take in additional ETJ, would VIA still have claim on that sales tax? Or is that strictly related to what ETJ is out there now?
Okay, you mean the city in the future expanding the
Yes.
amount of ETJ that it currently has?
Correct.
It certainly would be possible to do that. We'd have to convince San Antonio to do it again. As VIA collects sales tax in Bear County, so we would be talking about ETJ that is north of Bear County along Bandera Road. So that would be, what is it, Gillespie and then Bandera? What's between, is it Wilson?
San Geronimo and
Medina, thank you. It's Medina County and,
get up, you're still probably 6 or 7 miles from Medina County line where we are right now.
yeah. But San Antonio's ETJ goes all the way up to, actually, San Antonio's ETJ goes into Medina County. So we could potentially in the future, if we did a swap or something, have ETJ up into Medina County, and that would be the only area where VIA would not be involved.
And that would be a pretty big expansion.
Sure.
That's it.
Any other questions? Okay, we will go back into open session. Item 8 is discussion of an action on the EDC FYE 2019 strategic work plan and authorizing the executive director to transmit said plan to the city council for final review and approval. Do we have a motion to discuss?
A motion to discuss?
Moved.
I second.
Seconded. We pretty well covered everything, I think, in the work session. Does anybody have any further questions on the plan as revised with the one addition of the Highway 16 commercial corridor? In that case, I guess we need a motion to authorize the executive director to transmit the plan to the city for approval.
Motion made.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. So you can go forward with that, Rick.
On staff updates, I'd like to go up to the.
Item 9 is staff updates.
We're just gonna switch back and forth.
Y'all can team tag that if you want to.
Yes, sir. Okay. I decided to print out a copy for everyone because I know we have kind of some contrast issues with the screen so that most of the properties would come through. And I've also tried using, although it didn't print as light as my screen shows, so I'm still trying to figure out how to get a better aerial image for the property section. Regarding work completed since our February 20 meeting, on the cover, you can see several of our Fiesta Metal giveaway events. We're setting up at all the new locations from last year to help drive a little bit of business. We have not put any money towards these Facebook posts, but we're getting a reach of around 938 views on Facebook. As far as what do we see actually coming in the restaurant, today we gave away, I did lose a little bit of track, somewhere between 15 and 20 Fiesta Meadows down at the Cracked Mug, and that's in Old Town. So the owners of Cracked Mug were very pleased to get a little bit of extra exposure, and we've got several more planned. I didn't have a flyer.
Does everybody understand what they're doing with these medals? So, can you
I
explain
can-
that?
Absolutely. So one, this is the second year that the EDC has produced a Shop Helotes medal, and that's just trying to reinforce the brand of Shop Helotes that ties back into Facebook, our website, and a shop local program. What we've done the last couple of years is we coordinate with restaurants to go and sit there for an hour and a half. We post on Facebook saying where we are a week in advance and tell people to come out, make a purchase, get a free medal. Usually people charge $10 for a Fiesta medal, and they love collecting it. I've heard a lot of people,
What collect those things.
they have, for whatever reason, I'm glad they've deemed our medal as a collector's item. So it's awesome. We actually get a lot of interest online and emails and stuff. So we just let people know where we are. We try to go around to Ladies Night, Marketplace, other events too. This week it's a little crazy. There's almost a Fiesta Medal event every night this week, and then last week there was 3. And I try to go and just promote the area and tell people to come out. And
But generally, we're requiring that they purchase something in order to get a free medal.
yes, absolutely. Most people are good about it. They make a meal purchase. There's a few that'll come in and buy a tea to get a medal, but it's few and far between.
Still generating foot traffic.
It is. And honestly, we've got there's a handful of Holosians that follow us around to every event. And they'll go up and tell the manager that, they're glad we're doing this because it got them into a business that they hadn't visited. Like one guy went into Marco's last year. He said they go there every week now. They had no idea that business was there. So we do get that.
Developing awareness.
Yeah, yes, sir. On the second page, I've also done a couple of ads. This one is complete, promoting movie night here at the municipal grounds, May through September. Working on another one for the 4th of July festival. The third page, I actually didn't create this ad. Luckily, the chamber hired a graphic designer. But I did help coordinate the panel of speakers. We're doing digital trends. Really, it's for small businesses, but I guess I got left off. So we, just by happenstance, when we were at a networking function at the coffee shop, I ran into Tyran Toth, and she formed this Women in Digital Marketing meetup group, and she felt she could get some pretty heavy hitter panelists to come out and try to educate the chamber and some of our small businesses. On the fourth page, it's a little update on the EDC website and GIS planning. We have signed those contracts both with GIS planning and Real Massive. Real Massive is starting their kind of search of the area to gather information, so he told us it's going to take a good 30 days. GIS planning sent us over kind of a color scheme trying to match what we currently have on our EDC website. We've got a meeting scheduled tomorrow afternoon with them on the next steps for implementation. I know we're going to have to get them in contact with ESD and Associates, who the city and EDC use to maintain our website, to actually switch over. This section should be easy. I believe it's just kind of like an iframe setup.
Can I talk on that?
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to make clear that last time we talked to y'all, we were using CoStar. So CoStar, we couldn't get out of that contract even though we tried. Both Real Massive and GIS Planning gave us essentially up until CoStar's contract term ends, free service. So we're not double paying. We'll start paying in October for Real Massive and GIS, but we're implementing that now. And I did want to reiterate, because we always talk about our websites. Basically, we're trying to have a robust website that has all the property that we have in the Helotes area and even on the outside of Helotes to some extent. But also this GIS planning, and I know that you described it last time, but basically it takes a piece of property and it tells you what the demographics are for that individual piece of property. So that's a lot of good information for somebody who's trying to do a development on that. Neon Cloud, we're still...
Before you get with them, one of the other cool features with GIS, you can do comparables. So if they have a site here and a site somewhere else, they can pull the comparable demographics and generate heat maps and do all sorts of things. I think that's big asset.
And then with Manhard, those are the guys that we're using to essentially site plan tracts of land and determine a pro forma cost for what it would cost a developer to develop that site. So really with those things, I think we have three important things. Hopefully we have an all-encompassing property database. We can tell you exactly what the demographics are for that site, and then we can help you site plan that site for whatever type of business you want to put on there.
Where's the data coming from for the estimated cost for development of that site?
Manhard Consulting is an engineering firm you can speak to on the
So they use a
software.
software called SiteOps. And it goes in there based on the topography of the property. It can calculate all your grading, saws, and all the other utility companies have, well, saws for impact fees. He can generate estimates, add that all in. So it's just from a basic site development. Doesn't include building cost and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But most developers are concerned, number one, about what their site development costs are going to be. They know how much it's going to cost to build their building.
Right.
So that's what they really want to know. As far as where their cost estimating data is coming from, I don't have that information. Do you?
They use market, I guess market rates, for lack of a better description.
Okay.
So I would assume it's an engineering standard, but
Right.
we can ask. And then the last thing was, for this was Neon Cloud. Y'all have authorized in the past producing more videos, visuals of the city of Helotes, both for tourism and also for site selectors. We put that contract on hold during the construction of Highway 16, the realignment and all of that. We're getting probably closer to wanting to have them come back out. I'd probably want to wait until Bandera Road and 1604 is done, but we have that on standby
Right.
to come out and do it. We're just trying to make sure that the city looks nice and doesn't look like a construction zone when they come out here with their aerials.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's the ETA on that for the completion of all that construction?
Completion of Bandera and 1604 should be done very quickly.
It'll be done in less than the next 90 days, I'm
Yep.
sure, from
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at it.
Hausman Road, I would have to look it up. I actually have a timeline, but it's a long ways out.
It was a 2.5-year project, but I think from a comment the mayor made, that TxDOT has offered them some incentives to finish it early. So they've got a lot of equipment over there working on it. Supposedly, they're gonna have the turn lane reopened shortly from 1560 onto Bandera Road. They're focusing on getting that completed and the pavement back down so it'll alleviate traffic.
Yeah, so
turning
people
right.
can turn right
Yeah.
again.
Look at tickets.
Yeah.
The realignment's done, the bridge down there on 1560 is done. Now, the 1560 expansion from Gulm and Shanefield to where it connects into the new intersection, they're gonna move that to, instead of a 2-lane, it's gonna be 2 lanes on either side, so 4 lanes with a median in the middle and bike lanes on both sides. They still have not acquired the funding for that, but they are submitting it to the MPO for funding this year. And TxDOT's very good about getting MPO funding. So I would imagine that would be 4 to 5 years from now before we would even see any construction start on that.
Probably
The
so.
big hurdle is they're gonna have to do a lot of right-of-way acquisition in that area, which means either purchasing it at market value from landowners or going through the condemnation process, which can take a long time, so.
And then an update on the bird's eye view map. I know we've brought it up at the last meeting briefly. Sarah, who owns Bird's Eye View, has gone through a lot of medical issues. She had her dad passed away, had a lot of evidently family strife dealing with that. And then she said that kind of delayed her Bernie project, which then has delayed our project. So she's still committed to move forward. Right now, her estimate is to have something to us closer to the summer. She was talking June, July, and then start selling ads, and then have the final product shortly after that.
Something to us is the contract.
I have stressed that with her, that we need a contract, otherwise doesn't matter really what she does.
Right.
As far as we're concerned.
Water and sewer line, we're waiting on SAWS to approve the project. Everything's in, it's functional. They just haven't approved it. Every now and then you'll see Easy Bell Construction out here redoing grading or putting down more grass, because they need final stabilization, which means they need grass growing through so there's not erosion. But until SAWS approves the project, I can't do anything with submitting to get our impact fee credits and pro rata refunds for repaying us for the cost of that project.
Rick, describe the project to me, if you don't mind, from where to where?
The water and sewer line goes from Circle A Trail to Scenic Loop Road on the right-hand side as you're going north.
I thought that was already in.
It is already in.
Okay.
Just haven't approved it.
Been in for some
oh,
time.
got it.
TxDOT took forever to approve that project because of just grading. I mean, it looked like crap, frankly, for a long time. And so they finally got it to where it's smooth and everything. So TxDOT approved it, but SAWS is still, for whatever reason, is still not approving the project. It's not that they're not going to approve the project, they're just being very, and maybe rightly so, they're being very picky about how the grass looks and how everything has come together in the end, so.
And that's the only one right now.
The only one SAWS. We have to have them accept the project before we can initiate getting our money back in impact fee credits.
But we or they are not looking at any further projects in Helotes for water and sewer.
We have not had any discussions about additional water and sewer projects. That's something y'all can certainly have a discussion on. SAWS is doing some major reconfiguring of their sewer system, but that's completely on SAWS, and basically that's to prevent smelling issues and sewage backups that they're having. So they're increasing the size of a lot of their sewage utilities through Helotes.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do some work, I think, in Old Town they were talking about.
Yeah, they're going all the way from, they'll be doing work all the way from Antonio Drive by El Chaparral all the way through to Riggs Road. So, and we are going to require them that they that they asphalt block to block. So, at the end, hopefully we'll have all brand new pavement in Old Town after they're done, but it's gonna take some time.
We'll have to look at who the contractor is. When we did that last project, because of the quality of the contractor that did it, we hired our own inspector. And we had no direct involvement in the project financially, but we had our own inspection on it that could shut them down when they weren't doing the ditch fill and compacting it properly.
Yeah. Well, and even with that, still some of the stuff on Riggs Road is pretty,
It's still settling.
yeah, it's
but
still settling,
we'll
so,
get some of that,
yeah. They have not let that project,
right.
it's my understanding they have not let it, so it's still in engineering. There's considerable grading differences all the way from, basically, they're taking new routes from San Antonio Ranch all the way up through Helotes. So if you think about that, when you travel to San Antonio Ranch, you're going downhill, uphill. So there's a lot of issues when it comes to elevations that they're gonna have to deal with
They
there.
probably have to put some pump stations on it.
They're trying to no, they're not gonna have a pump station at all. They're going down a considerable distance in order to not have a pump station. That's one of the whole reasons for doing this project, is they're trying to get rid of all the lift stations from San Antonio Ranch this way. The only one that would stay would be the one at the entrance to Iron Horse Canyon. And that's going to be retrofitted quite a bit because that is already at max capacity, which is why it smells in that area sometimes. You were in that meeting, right? Yes, sir. Okay. You're exactly right what
We don't have to worry about that right now.
Yeah. The bridge project, we're still waiting on FEMA to approve our Clomar. I think I've gone over the estimates, or we received revised bids. And essentially, when it comes down to it, the cost of the project has increased by about $30,000. The pedestrian bridge, they're honoring the same price. The Hill Country Bridge, because of the modifications that were needed to the bridge itself, plus because it's being lowered and it's in the 100-year floodplain, then they had to beef up the abutments. And so the Hill Country Bridge bid went up about the $30,000. But given the amount of time that we've been working on this project, honestly, I'm happy that it's only $30,000.
Yeah.
So. And the municipal development district creation, I included within packets the email that I sent to VIA on the 26th, basically asking them, okay, if y'all aren't going to release it, what is the election process, or what do we need to do on the election side to get the voters to release it? And naturally, I haven't received any response at this point, but I will get a response eventually, so.
I think you went through a lot just to get the response you did, didn't you?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it wasn't the response we wanted.
For sure.
And we've been waiting on them for what, 2 years?
Time flies, I'd have to go back and look.
Two and a half years.
I don't have any updates on the Helotes Visitor Center at this time. On the current and proposed commercial developments, I included a few properties that are in continued development process at some various stage. The first one is a proposed 18,000 square foot office building. There is a picture that they're planning to present to P&Z in April. I think that's April 2nd. I believe they got their submittal turned in on time. And below is a map of generally where that property is located. That's near Scenic Loop in Monarch. It is a two-story building. The first story is a little over 10,000, and then the upper story is like 7,800.
And the first floor, it's my understanding, is gonna be for their corporate headquarters, and the upstairs is going to be for additional lease space, correct?
I do not know on that one.
That's what I saw on the plan that they submitted, that they're only gonna use the bottom floor and they're gonna lease the upstairs.
The next site, I've tried to start at the north end of Helotes and work our way in, would be at the corner of Scenic Loop and Bandera. That site is under contract right now. They're going through their kind of due diligence. As soon as we get something submitted, we'll make sure everyone is informed. The next property.
Let me just
Okay.
clarify on something. When we say something is, the site is under contract, basically, we're telling you that we don't want to tell you what the business is, because it's not ripe yet to tell y'all what that business is. It's gonna have to go through P&Z and City Council. It should be an exciting time, but we can't tell you at this time what business is proposing to go in there.
Thanks for answering my question before I had a chance to ask it.
The next one down is a property that's in between Helotes Christian Church and Jupy Mills. Had a meeting with Stan last week. He's still looking to move forward. He's evaluating architect firms right now. And then once he gets that done, then he'll be reaching back out to us. He's still looking at doing somewhere between 12 to 15,000 square foot of kind of a, not necessarily mixed use, but a retail office, professional office.
And it's a horrible, I shouldn't say this on the record, but that is not a good
That is not the.
commercial development design.
That's not the design. That, partly through Manhard, for us to get a reasonable rate and an expensive rate on these concepts, it's like SimCity. He grabs something that's already designed and drops it. He can go in and custom create what we want, but then that's gonna mean a lot of man hours.
No, I'm talking about the layout.
Oh, the layout.
It needs to be stressed to Mr. Goodson that.
It has, yes.
Okay. And
No.
what I mean by that is this is very similar to where Pete's Bandera Road Cafe is currently. You have one very long center where the front of all the businesses don't face Bandera Road. They face into the parking lot, and the only thing that faces Bandera Road is Bandera Road Cafe. So if you notice, that center always has a hard time getting people into it. It's because everybody wants frontage on Bandera Road. So
Absolutely.
why I say this is not a very good, I mean, it's going to be hard to lease this thing.
Absolutely. The next property, there was almost a 2-acre tract that was just listed for $950,000. If you're driving from here north on Bandera, when the, I don't know, the escarpment starts going up just a little bit, you'll see a kind of a road cut. That's the tract. There's 2 brokers. We have a local residential broker, Patricia Broyles, along with DH Realty, that are brokering the property. And they're trying to do office on that one. The approximately 1.2 acre site below is Sean Carlson. He's a local architecture firm, and he's going to be building his new office on that site. And then we get to kind of FM 1560 in Bandera. We've still been in discussion with a developer that's trying to bring in I can say a grocery anchor into Helotes.
I'm sorry, what anchor?
A grocery anchor. We finally got a hold of Mr. Bitter yesterday, and he just absolutely refused to meet with the developer. Didn't care to see any site plans, any schematics. And so we're trying to reach back out to see how we can get him back to the table and interested. Actually met with 2 other developers who are interested in that site. So we've got at least 3 or 4 that would love to develop that site. And a lot of the interest is coming because of the expansion on FM 1560. Every one of them has mentioned that.
That's the problem of us not owning the site, though.
It would have been developed 10 years ago.
Really, the only thing we have on that property is footage from both highway right-of-ways back. The majority of the property is not in the city.
But it's true, it's in our ETJ,
Yeah.
majority. And then there's a property right across the street by Compass Bank. There's 2.5 acres. That site as well went under contract in February. They've got a 8-month due diligence period. It's extremely long. What they presented in a pre-development meeting, I don't believe meets most of our requirements for design standards. So that'll be something that they'll have to figure out. We've made our recommendations, staff, on how to incorporate the more hill country look.
Well, the other issue with that is that what they're proposing, you know, is probably not the highest and best use for that property. It's something that we have, it's a service company that we have many of in Helotes. And so it's also a prime corner to have something that is so similar to the other things that we have in the community. Again, we don't own the property. We wish that they would reconfigure that site to put the proposed business towards the rear and actually have a pad site up there for another restaurant or something along those lines. But I don't think that's gonna happen. So, I mean, we're gonna work with the property or the developer to put his best foot forward in front of the commission and city council, because that's our job, but it's not an exciting development for us. But at the same time, we don't own the property, so.
That's right. And then going a little bit further south on Bandera, in between Walmart and Babe's Burgers, it's where we have a Bezo Development doing their second project here in Helotes. They did the one across the street from this one. And the plan is 9,300 square foot retail office complex. And that is all I have. Any questions?
So can you allude to what kind of service company they're trying to put back there? Is that still one of those
The one
things
that you
where?
have many of?
I can't, no.
Use your
Is there
imagination.
potential for the service company to expand into like a franchise model? Or is this just?
It already is a franchise model.
Oh, okay.
I don't feel comfortable with saying anything on the record. You can certainly pick Glenn's brain after
Okay.
the meeting is adjourned, but not
Understood.
on the record.
Call you tomorrow.
Okay, at this point,
Councilman Bice has,
Is there any news with the emergency center that shut down? Nothing?
Nothing.
with the what?
he was asking if there was any news on the emergency center, the First Choice ER that went out of business.
We wanted to go back to the debt interest as soon as possible.
It's going to be redeveloped, but we haven't received any additional news on how that's going to happen.
We are adjourned at 8:03.